Right, today's video I'm going to do Google's most asked architect questions. I'm going to just type it in Google and see what comes up. I'm first going to do are architects, then do architects, blah blah blah, then can architects, then how do architects, and then finally what do architects, so don't miss that. Right, let's get going. Are architects engineers? No, they're not engineers, but you could say they do kind of some engineering. They don't use much maths though. Architects are more design orientated. I think the best way to describe it is that engineers are more concerned with physical things, whereas architects are more concerned with human relationship with physical things. Right, next one. Are architects in demand? Well, that depends what country you're in. It could be not in demand, or here it could be more in demand. It depends what the market is. Building changes different times of the year depending on the market, what the real estate is like, all those kind of things. So it depends. Next one. Are architects rich? The money always comes up. It's like any other profession really. Some might make it rich if you work hard and you're successful and lucky, or you're famous. You could be just a normal professional just making their way, earning decent money. Or you could be a failure and not earn much money at all. But generally architects, they're pretty well off. I wouldn't say they're rich, but pretty good profession. You get money and you're not poor basically. Okay, next one. Are architects happy? This is a very strange question because things are not so black and white like that. I mean, is an actor happy? Is a lawyer happy? Is an engineer happy? It depends on your personality. But there are some things that could make you unhappy, like the amount of study in 7 years at least to be an architect, and then at the end of it, it's not like, oh, you qualified, there's suddenly a big salary. No, you still have to work your way up. Then there's designing a building in real life. It's very different to what you think. Architects go through years or even their life without designing much at all. I was only in my mid-30s but I can actually say I designed a building, so it's quite late. Sometimes there's not much satisfaction there, but if you keep working then you'll get there in the end. You should, and then you become more happy. So it takes a while, but at least you have like a career, a goal, a direct path of what you're doing. So in that regard it can make you happy and fulfilled at the end of it. Are architects artists? They are artists, not completely, but there are artists and they're technical as well, so it's a bit of both really. Are architects paid well? It's decent. You're not poor, as I said before. Okay, next one then. Do architects make good money? See, it's the money thing again. It's because you study so long, everyone thinks you should be rich. It takes a lot of qualifications and everything. This is what's really annoying about the career. I think if they changed the amount of time you study to just normal 3 years, you wouldn't get all these people demanding more money. So the money's okay. Do architects use maths? They do use maths, but not complicated maths, just basic maths. This is a common question. Do you use a lot of maths? No, not really at all. But the trouble is, the catch is that when you get to university, you do these engineering modules and you have to know a little bit of maths. But I've known people at uni and stuff who are really crap at maths and they still got through it. So if maths is an obstacle for you, don't worry about it. Just don't let it stop you from being an architect. Do architects build houses? They don't actually build, but they design houses. The builder builds the house, or if you're an architect, you might decide you want to build it yourself. You can build it. Do architects need to be good at maths? No, you don't. Do architects design houses? Yes, they do design houses amongst everything. People just think architects design houses. Rarely do you design houses. You design loads of different types of buildings. Do architects travel? It's very difficult to get a job as an architect abroad because you have the licenses in different countries. So as soon as you leave that country, you're not an architect in that country. Sometimes they'll recognize your license if you go to another country. They go, oh yeah, he's got a license in the UK or something like that. Still won't be an architect in that country. So generally, you don't travel much to other countries, but you'll travel around to site, different construction sites, wherever you are. Do architects design bridges? They do, but they'll need a lot of engineering input for bridges. Calatrava, he's a famous architect, but actually he's not an architect, he's an engineer. He does a lot of bridges. Norman Foster's done some beautiful bridges, but you'll need engineering input. Do architects need a license? Yes, you do need a license. Some countries, they won't let you design buildings unless you're licensed, but in the UK that's not the case. You only need the license to call yourself an architect. That's what it's like in the UK anyway. You can still design buildings. The license is just to call yourself that word, architect. That's it. Can architects work for Google? There are some famous architects who've designed buildings for Google. I think Bjarg Ingels is doing Google HQ. Thomas Heatherwick has done something for Google. You can do it that way. You can design a building for Google, but can't imagine an architect working for Google unless you're good at computers or something. Can architects work from home? They can, but personally, I don't think they should work from home, because you have to be in the office and work with people, get advice from people, coordinate the project with people, get ideas from the client and people. Because of COVID and everything, working at home thing, that's made it a lot easier, but I still believe you should be around people when you're designing. You should be in a studio or office. You'll have to have loads of meetings all the time on Zoom. What a waste of time. But you can work from home. Can architects be rich? Possibly, if you're really successful. Can architects do interior design? This is a bit controversial. I do a bit of interior design. I don't specialise in it. Like, for instance, if there's a hotel, there's a lot of fancy interior in a hotel, so you'll definitely need an interior designer. See, architects, when they design stuff, usually functional. They won't put something there unless it's required. That's why you lot see simple interiors for architect buildings. There's a lot of stuff in interiors that's fancy stuff that's not really required, like fancy lights and fancy patterns. You need an interior designer to specialise in that a bit more. They've done it more and they're more into that stuff. It might be licensed in some countries, but in the UK, anyone can be an interior designer. You don't need a license, you don't need a qualification. It's not like architect need a license. That's a bit controversial, as I say. I mean, I could call myself an interior designer if I wanted to. Nothing stopping me from doing that in a lot of countries. Next one, can architects have tattoos? Sure, why not? I think the concern is when you have job interviews, they might see you and stuff like that, and they might put you off, but nowadays I don't think that's a problem. Can architects make millions? You can. From a salary, you probably can't make millions. Well, you maybe can if you work years and years. I think I read somewhere the other day, an architect in their entire lifetime earns around $5 million or something, $6 million. That's quite depressing, but it's not that bad if you think about it. But you're more likely to make millions if you have your own company. Can architects build houses? They're certainly capable to build a house, but they won't have as much expertise as an experienced builder. I wouldn't know how to pour a concrete or the ingredients involved in a concrete as much detail as a builder would. Also, a builder needs certain building licenses usually, so architect won't have that as well. Can architects advertise? Yeah, of course they can advertise. There's nothing in the professional codes of conduct in the UK so telling you can't advertise, but there is telling you that you must advertise truthfully. Some countries, I heard you're not allowed to advertise if you're an architect. That's just crazy. Now on to how do architects get paid? Okay, if you work for a company like me, you get salary, or if you've got your own company, private work or something, there's three ways you can charge: by timely cost, like per hour or something, a lump sum, like you finish some work, you charge $1 million or something, or there's a percentage of the construction cost, which is usually around 10%, the average architect charges. How do architects use trigonometry? Oh my god, I don't really use trigonometry really. What is trigonometry? It's like right angle triangles. It depends if you're drawing triangles. I've never used trigonometry being an architect. How do architects dress? Usually in an office it's just trousers and shirt, but architects don't wear ties very much. Sometimes they're quite casual, and some architects wear black because they want to look arty and all those things. I did a video about that. And they like to copy other architects as well, because a lot of previous architects wore black, so they copy them. How do architects use math? The mostly maths I use nowadays is when you're working out, like I said before, the square metre area of the house. They might ask you for square metres of different materials, like how many square metres of tiles on the wall or on the floor, how many toilets, how many doors in the building. That's mostly the maths you do. And that kind of stuff is done on the computer anyway, so it's not much maths thinking about it, unless you're going to get involved in cost and stuff, but you probably won't unless you're in your own practice or something. How do architects work? I did a Skillshare on this, maybe I'll put it below or up here or something. It's done in stages, so you gradually do the design. You start off with feasibility study, then you do concept design, then you do more technical, add in more detail on the design as it goes, then construction drawings. That goes through a long process, building it up from a simple sketch to adding more detail, basically. That's how architects work. How do architects use geometry? You've got to know shapes and sizes and how they go together, like how curves meet together, how lines and planes, what looks right, what proportions and things like that. It's basically you just learn how things look good, really. How do architects design buildings? There's a lot of theme and conceptual and philosophizing the design as well. There's a lot of stuff like that. Theories that make a building how it is, why it's done that way, why it's that particular shape. It might come from the culture in the area, or it might be inspired by the weather or the sun. It might be inspired by the local market, things like that. How do architects make money? Like I said, you charge or you get salary. How do architects get clients? You can advertise or you go through meetings. You can do work for charity to build your reputation, but it's mostly get clients through word of mouth. That's why you don't see many architects advertise that much. So you mostly get clients through your previous projects or through word of mouth or maybe social media. What do architects do? They design buildings and they coordinate the other consultants within the project on the project. So if you got like aircon designed by the mechanical engineers, you have to coordinate that so it doesn't hit the beams and the ceiling heights are the right height and got the right engineering rooms like plant rooms and everything. So it's not just designing the building, coming up with the idea, drawing the building, everything like that. It's also coordinating all the other consultants on the project. This architect's traditionally the design leader of all the consultants, so all the engineers, landscape designer, interior designer, architect's the leader of all those consultants. So you need to coordinate all that work to make sure they're doing it correct and it fits into the overall design of the building. What do architects do on a daily basis? Okay, I'll tell you the truth now. You sit on your ass on the computer and draw. That's what you do basically most of the time. What do architects wear? I answered that before. It's just office wear, so shirt and trousers mostly, no tie usually. What do architects design? They design buildings, but they can design a lot of things related to buildings as well. Like I've seen Norman Foster's done like interior of a plane, but it's not just like houses, sailing club, office towers, hospitals, vet schools, animals, surgical suites. It could be an airport or I'm working on a ferry terminal. So many different types of buildings that architects do. What do architects make? They do make models and stuff, especially in the early years at university. You do painting sometimes to get your creative juices flowing. First idea of the building, you might want to get some paints out and start drawing it if it comes to you, and then you'll get the feeling of the building, what inspires you and things like that. Or you can make a physical model out of cardboard, so you can make that kind of stuff. Or you can make a 3D model on the computer. So you make stuff, to visualize your building and communicate your building to other people. What do architects study? It's just called architecture, the course. You can either do BA honours or bachelor's science, or there's lots of different modules. All the engineers that you have involved on the project, you kind of do modules for all those things. And you also do other things, like you'll have a module for interior design, module for landscape design, you have a module for history of architecture. So you cover the broad base of buildings really in architecture and engineering, so everything related to a building you kind of study during your architecture degree. What do architects charge? They charge money. What do architects build? They don't actually build, because you get a builder. So the design team is all the engineers and architects. Then you get the client who's paying the money to get the thing built. Then you get the builder who's building the bloody thing. The architect's not building the thing. They're the main three. What do architects use to design? Traditionally, it was a drawing board, pen and paper. Still, people do sketches. Everyone sketches. You can't really design a building properly without a few sketches to start off with, at least. I think most architectural designs start off with a sketch. A lot of tracing paper is used. So if you have a drawing, you put tracing paper on top of that and you sketch on that. Architects have sketchbooks, pencils, pens, crayons, some of them use paints. You can use all sorts of media. Nowadays it's mostly a computer There's lots of different software you can use. And the final one, what do architects use to draw plans? People don't use CAD anymore, that's old school, that's just 2D drawings, but now people are doing it in 3D, that's called building information modeling. When you model it in 3D and you insert in components like doors and windows and walls, and it tells you the quantities of everything and also pulls out all the drawings as well. So that's what architects use nowadays. And if you want to see more, I'll put some videos here related to some of these questions.